show, Stimulate Your Mind show. That's thesimshow.com. Um, but today, we're going to get into this diehard fan stuff. Thanks for Sports for America for putting me on. Um, so, right out the gate, we're going to get into what I'm a diehard fan of football specifically. The Dallas Cowboys. I'm sick of you Dallas Cowboy haters out there, is how I'm going to start this show. I'm sick of you haters out there calling us cowgirl fans, calling us everything except a reputable team. Even a meme referencing the Brittany Griner situation, saying that um, they should trade the whole Cowboy team for Brittany Griner. That's kind of disappointing, people, to be a fan of a sports team. All the stuff that I hear about Dallas Cowboy fans are not necessarily true and not necessarily good, as far as we're obnoxious because we want our team to win, because we tend to remind people of the history. Do not Pittsburgh Steelers fans do the same thing? 49er fans do the same thing? Patriot fans? If you're a fan of any team, any sport, do not Yankee fans do the same thing? How long has it been since they've won? How long has it been since some of you guys that root for teams like the Washington Commanders or the Detroit Lions and all? How long has it been since y'all won anything? At least we do have bragging rights. At least we have something to talk about as far as being a Dallas Cowboy fan. But I'm sick of the haters. Uh, Having a family predominantly from Houston, always talking, always in my ear, the Texans fans, always, oh, those cowgirls, oh, the cow. We are a reputable team. We are a great team. Uh, we have clearly the best franchise, one of the best franchises in sports all time, as far as when it comes to marketing and filling seats, selling tickets, and having people tune in to games. Nothing's wrong with all those things. I commend Jerry Jones for keeping that tradition going. And I will tell you this, as far as me being a Cowboy fan, it all started when the Oilers left to go to Tennessee. When Houston didn't have a team anymore, I transitioned to a Cowboy fan just to keep it in the state of Texas. Always home, no matter where I've roamed. Um, with that being said, you look at the Tennessee franchise, the old Oilers franchise. They could never get over the hump. You look at the newer Texans franchise, which is not so new anymore. You see all the issues that are on the field, off the field, just like any other team, just like a franchise. But the difference is Cowboy fans take a whole lot of heat. I've traveled this country from north to south, east to west, and in my latest travels, I run across a lot of Cowboy haters, but I also see a lot of Cowboy fans. I was in Richmond, Virginia a few weeks ago talking to a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and he's reminding me of all the tradition of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So when I mentioned I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, he has this wry smile come across his face because they've done their thing. It's been um, a great time for football as far as being a Dallas Cowboy fan, because, like I said, uh, one of the top franchises, uh, a team that always looked good on paper. Now, if we want to talk team from a fan's point of view, then we could talk that as far as yeah, we haven't won the big one and we haven't done much in the playoffs, which I'm hoping we'll break those curses this season. Hopefully, we'll start getting over the hump. We'll get into that a little bit later. Again, I want to thank Sports for America for putting me on. Um, I'm really surprised at some of the areas that I go to, and there are Cowboy fans, like the state of Montana, a huge Cowboy fan following, a huge Cowboy following. States like Wyoming, lots of Cowboy fans. Even up in Minnesota, where I recently just moved from, um, going to the games up there, going to watch the Vikings play against the Cowboys. There's more Cowboy fans in the building than it is Viking fans, at least from my experiences, the games that I went to. Um, so Represent your team, but raise up off my team. Why must we take so much flack? Why can't we lean on our history? Why can't we speak about what we're doing? And hello out there, Snowman. So, being a cowboy, being a true cowboy fan, die hard like I am, like I rep everywhere I go. Uh, Normally stay geared up during the season. Um, I've lived in climates where it's cold weather, so I can always throw the Cowboys hoodies on and be comfortable. Um, those things are always great. Um, but looking into just rooting for your team, I don't care when it's NFL. I don't care if you're a fan of the players, if you're a fan of teams. Um, Going head to head with fans from the division, uh, they always have to be reminded that even though they call it the NFC League and they've given it these titles in recent years, truth of the matter is the teams in the NFC East, that division itself has more Super Bowls than any other division. So the most current one was Philadelphia, but that doesn't take away from the fact that there's history there, and that doesn't take away from the fact. So all that NFC East stuff, it's like until the other divisions start catching up, what to talk about? What's the debate? Um, as a historian of the game, it's always good. It's always good to see. It's always good to rep. I'm glad for those that are tuning in. You have to forgive me a second. Um, People want to join the show or join in um, on this conversation. Now, um, when you're rooting for your team and you're happy about your team, it shouldn't take away from respect for others. As a Cowboy fan, what I've learned is not to get into arguments with people about it, because some people want to fight over, because I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. Some people take that real offensive, and it's like it shouldn't have to get violent, um, which is one of those things where teams, um, where fans get carried away sometimes. We've seen it in the stadiums. Uh, but the one thing I can say about Cowboy fans is that you won't see us hardly ever booing our own team like some of you fans do. Y'all turn against y'all own team. How you gonna turn against your own team and call yourself a diehard fan or a fan? It's like support your team no matter what. It's like booing a player, booing anything associated with your team shows just the dysfunction, and you can see why the team has a little dysfunction at times when you look at some of the fans. Yes, I said it. Sometimes the fans mean a lot to the players. Even understand that it's like you don't come out there, you don't come there to a home game um, to root against your team. You should come to the home game to root for your team, to support your team, win or lose. Those are the things. It's the ups and downs. It's the disappointment. Getting put out of the playoffs last year um, in the wild card game against a team that I thought clearly we were better than. I thought the Cowboys were better than the 49ers. But the 49ers just came out more prepared and they got the jump. And that's the thing that I'll say about my team is that the recent Dallas Cowboys over the last decade or so, they haven't really played with that fire that you would expect when they have an opportunity to make a move. Um, the You go back to the 8-8 seasons. One game to normally coming down to Dallas and Philadelphia mainly or something like that. And it's like a depleted Philadelphia team beats us in a meaningful game, and you can see just the that lethargic attitude that the Cowboys came out with that same type of energy in his recent playoffs, last year's playoffs. So this season, what I'm looking for with preseason getting ready to start tomorrow, actually, what I'm looking for is for us to do better, for us to come out with that fire, play with that fire every game. Sometimes you have to wonder as a fan, does it have to do with coaching? Does it have to do with player preparation or mindset? I think all those things factor in. If you ask me, if you have a coach, remember we had Jason Garrett who just sat there with his arms folded most of the time, just chewing gum or doing and clapping when bad things happen. Um, just constantly clapping. It's like, hey man, he just threw an interception. What are we clapping for? Hey man, he just fumbled the ball. What are you clapping for? It's like no fire from the coaches. And I know those that are highly critical of the Cowboys are going to say Jerry Jones has something to do with that. But yet and still, as the GM, he's done fairly well. Coaching selections, maybe not so much. A lot of people like to say that it's puppets on the string. He wants puppets on the string. He doesn't want a dominant force as a coach. But who does want a dominant force these days as a coach? Let me tell you something. The new world is here. Those days are over. Those days of coaches being demanding. You can see it throughout the league. Every sport, actually, you can see it throughout every sport now that those coaches with the old school mentalities, they're just out of there right now. The players are not playing for them. The players won't play for them. It's just not happening. So you have to have that mindset. I always thought Jerry Jones was on to something, understanding the changes and the trends. And that's what a great businessman does. He understands the changes and the trends, that the players are not going to ride for a coach that they don't feel. Um, and as you see, the NFL is becoming that trend of getting younger coaches. You're getting fewer and fewer um, of those old school type of coaches, and you're getting more of those friendlier type of coaches, or player friendly type coaches that start to understand the players. Well, if you never understand the players, not saying that the older guys can't understand the players, but it seems like the younger coaches like McVay, all these younger ones that come in after McVay, the Kingsleys and things like that, it seems like that swing of momentum, and you take even the older guy like McCarthy, who coaches for the Cowboys. He's been known to be a player friendly coach. So you have all that. You have all those elements. I think Jerry Jones has always done a good job of staying ahead of the curve in those respects, finding ways to reinvent, finding ways to keep the Cowboys as one of the top franchises in sports, and also the marketability. Um, but now I want to get into um, the Cowboys as far as field performance and players and things like that. It's a lot of pressure on Dak, or so they're saying. It's a lot of pressure on Dak to perform this season, to come out, see what he can do. Well, I think it's not just pressure on Dak. It should be pressure throughout the whole team to come out and prove that they're not just paper champions and look great on paper, and then underperform when it comes to the season. Talent can only get you so far. A lot of times it has to be that heart, that will, that determination when your back's against the wall to come out with that fight in you. Um, I know Dak had suffered an injury the season before, so last season it looked like he wasn't trying to run the ball as much. He was very protective of himself, trying not to get re-injured. Um, and I'm a firm believer that when you start thinking about that kind of stuff, then you're not going to perform as well as you probably could. Um, so the pressure is not just on Dak to me, it's on the whole organization. It's on Jerry Jones to say, hey, I finally found another head coach that can win, that can get us there, that can get us deep in the playoffs or make a true championship run, not just make the playoffs one and done. Um, Same thing, you know, to be said for Ezekiel Elliott, as far as a lot of people saying that his best days are behind, which are true, but he can still be a decent running back in a good system if he's used properly. Running backs, we know they don't have a long shelf life, so I don't hold anything against Zeke, other than the fact that I thought that as a true fan, a couple of seasons he did come in having the weight issues, not in shape, not ready to play a full season. Um, we trying to really understand the Cowboys, where we going right now, as far as a fan. you gotta love your team no matter what, but sometimes you can't ride with the BS. And the BS from the Dallas Cowboys side is a whole lot of hype and not a whole lot of performing on the field. It's like, uh, when I watch certain teams, like you watch the Tampa Bay Bucks, you watch the Kansas City Chiefs, you watch the LA Rams from last season. Um, they were pretty much in every game, pretty much fighting to the end of every game, and it's the mentality of the leaders of the team. I think that for Dak to really prove himself, he's going to have to be the complete leader of that team in the huddle, on the sidelines, and things like that. I think he just has to take control of the team, and I think that he has to come out with a little bit more fight in meaningful games. We lose a lot of so-called meaningful games um, just because we come out nonchalant. We should come out with that fight, that passion. We should also um, get a defense that plays every game, and we're relying on turnovers. That's not good defense. I know that in the NFL these days it's going to be hard to put together uh, one of those defenses like the '85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens and things like that, because of the way the league is set up with with the defense being pretty much handicapped. Yes, I can see the comments. I can see Dallas for life. How you doing out there? I'm here. Um, I'm liking the um, I'm liking the approach that we've had as far as preparing, but I don't like what I see when we get on the field. It's like every year training camp, great training camp. Every year, great. Not so much a great preseason, but we start off and we're ready to win. With the exception of Dak getting hurt that season, we don't know where we would have been with that season. But everybody was saying, "Hey, Dak's worth the money. He's not worth the money." Um, but what quarterback is worth all of that money? Only a select few, right? Uh, so being this diehard fan of the Cowboys, it's a struggle because everywhere I go, you hear different things. I've heard every single thing that you want to hear about being a Cowboy fan, and some of it, no matter how true some things ring, is still not it's still not cool. It's not reputable. So going back and forth debating with different people in different areas, I made this whole West Coast swing. So I saw a lot of Raider fans, a lot of Ram fans, and a lot of 49er fans during my California swing. And I was reminded of the good days, as some call it, the rivalries between the 49ers and the Cowboys. Um, yeah, those were fun times and those were great games to watch. But here in 2020s, what I'm looking forward to is another Super Bowl. It's time to win the Super Bowl, Dallas. As a true fan, it's time to win the Super Bowl. It's time to put up or shut up. Uh, Within this season, next season, it's time to win a Super Bowl. It's time to not just get to the Super Bowl, but win the Super Bowl. Um, because we don't want to come up short like everybody else. And we can't have the Eagles saying that they were the last Super Bowl winners in our division. So it's time for us to get over that hump. Um, stop looking great on paper. Put the performance together. Put the whole package together. Come out and win. Wait until the last minute to try to win a game. It's like we've seen that time and time again. And I don't take away certain things. Being a true fan, you have to call it the way you call it. Uh, one of Romo's last great seasons up there in Green Bay. They did it to us. They messed us over. You know, they messed us over. But we were still able to put a game on. The Dez Bryant, whether it was a catch or not. But sometimes you don't have to let games come down to where the refs can make a difference in the game. It's easier said than done sometimes, but sometimes you just have to come out with that mentality that we're gonna win. And then don't forget, Aaron Rodgers got us again in our own house. It's like we have problems with Mr. Rodgers. Yeah, the Stephen A. Smith hating on the Cowboys. Um, I'm sure that has a lot to do with his former co-host, the whole Skip Bayless, being a diehard Cowboy fan, but Stephen A. going in on the Cowboys the way he does. Yeah, it does rub me wrong sometimes, following Stephen A., being a fan of Stephen A. But really and truly, he's the least of my worries. It's more about our team finally stepping up. It's about our team finally taking it to the next level. It's about using the talent the right way. It's about going out there, being in the meaningful games. Um, Last year alone, games that we felt like, were marquee games on the schedule, we didn't win any of them, including the first game of the season last year. And now they're going to do the same thing, the repeat of it. First game of the regular season, we're coming out against the Tampa Bay Bucks again. I personally think that we learned something from the last time, and I think that we'll get them this time. I hope that we'll get them this time. Um, Preseason, I know, is going to be people trying to make the team. It's going to be those players, and that's a little bit that I want to talk about as far as gearing up for the preseason. There's always these players, you might not know their names right now, but there's always a player or two that you feel bad as a fan. You feel bad because they gave it their all, and it wasn't good enough to make that roster. It wasn't good enough to make the team. You see those players all the time, more so in the skill positions. You see it at the quarterback, because most teams, you already know who the quarterback is going to be. But preseason, looking out for those players, but also interested, with these teams paying all these quarterbacks all this money, basically saying, "Hey, that's my starter." It's not really entertaining anymore. There's not too many quarterback battles out there. I believe Pittsburgh may have a quarterback battle this year. Um, the Panthers are going to have a quarterback battle now, which I don't understand. They're thinking, if you're going to bring Baker Mayfield in, then why is he not the starter over? Why is he competing with Sam Darnold? I mean, I think we've seen what Sam Darnold's going to give you. I don't think that's going to change. He started off okay as long as Christian McCaffrey was in the lineup. But is that what you really need if you're Carolina? Think about that for a minute. Is that what you really need? Like, without Christian McCaffrey, he went downhill. They tried to bring Cam in. Cam, I don't know. I'll go on record as saying I think Cam is washed. I don't think Cam. I don't think Cam can perform anymore. It's not Cam's fault. It's just all the injuries and all the hits. Like, he's more like a running back. He's been more like a running back, playing quarterback. Refusing to running people over. All that stuff is taking its toll on Cam. I just don't think I don't think Cam wants to admit that, but I don't think his body is the same. I don't think he took punishment. Now, back to the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold thing. Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold. I went on record on the show First Formation. I said that I didn't think that Baker Mayfield would get another starting job. So it would be real sad if he got beat out by Sam Darnold. That would be very disappointing. I don't know what you all think out there, but I think that would be very. I think that'll be crushing if it wasn't how he got how he was done in the Cleveland Brown organization, coming down that stretch, going to wanting to leave and wanting to prove himself, and then being beat out by Sam Darnold. That's gotta hurt his morale. That's gotta really be a pain. But I don't know. I don't even see why he would be in competition with Sam Darnold. I wouldn't. He was outraged at how Cleveland done things. He should be outraged about this. About I'm having to compete against a guy who has basically sucked his career as a starter. I mean, you have to do that. Wouldn't select Christian McCaffrey in the first round. It's just always like Christian McCaffrey's thing is injuries. If the guy stays healthy, hey, if he stays healthy, like, who knows how far the Panthers can even go, or how things would change for them as a team, even if McCaffrey's always if he finishes a season healthy, I should say, go through a season see where they are. I don't think he's completed a full season since he's been in the league. Maybe one, maybe. Um, but I think having a guy like McCaffrey really changes the game. He's a game changer. He's a great weapon to have. You have to have more weapons than that in order to really compete in that division, I think. But I think I'm not a fan of Baker Mayfield either. I'm just my point is, man, he lost that job up there in Cleveland, and he clamored, I want to go somewhere else. And then the place that he goes, he's in competition with Sam Darnold. So if he doesn't win that job, that's all on Baker Mayfield right there. So all those that support Baker Mayfield can get off the gas and stop saying that he was done wrong here or there, or he should have been given a shot, a better a shot in Cleveland or whatever. Speaking of Cleveland, um, I know they're still waiting on the whole Deshaun Watson thing to fall out, but I don't really want to get into the Deshaun Watson thing because that's already been done so much. Uh, I will say that the league appealing the six game suspension is kind of funny. That's hilarious. It's like the owners are not held responsible for cases in a lot of instances. So why should players get the ultimate punishment? They want a full year. I mean, I get it. Uh, I'm not saying that what Deshaun Watson did is right, but I'm just saying, man, you had a mediator. You got an outside mediator to go through that, and then you see the result. Now you don't like those results because they weren't favorable to what you wanted, or why go to an outside source to begin with, and now you're gonna appeal. So what are you saying that this young man's mistakes are worse than any other owners, or worse than any other players' mistakes and things like that. I think missing the whole season for whatever reason last year, coupled with the 6 games this year, if the kid doesn't learn any lessons from that, man, then he's not going to learn lessons. But I want to talk about Jacoby Brissett, seeing what we're going to see in this preseason. Um, him getting a chance. I'm happy for him. He came. Those that don't know, he came from New England. I think he was drafted by New England. He played as a backup there, started a few games there. Then he got a shot down in Indianapolis to be a starter. Really was just a middle of the road. It wasn't really that good. Wasn't really that bad. But then they brought in, who was a back, a more top tier quarterback than Jacoby. But it's good to see Jacoby at least get a chance to keep a team afloat. Um, um, yeah, that's what I was saying. Sitting out one year. That's exactly what I was saying, Sean. He sat out one year and then being suspended. The whole Watson thing. Jacoby Brissett, in my opinion, he's sort of like Jimmy G to me. All those that played under Bill Belichick, because of the organization that they came from, they got a little light, they got a little shine, and they got an opportunity. And they did fairly well as starters when they were with New England, when they had to fill in here and there. But overall, I think Jacoby is going to be a good pace setter. He'll get to prove himself in a different environment than Indianapolis, where Indianapolis, you pretty much figure they can stay in the hunt in that division because that division is a little weak down there. Um, Tennessee probably the front runners. We know we might not see much in Tannehill this preseason, but I think he needs to work. Um, throwing that many interceptions in a meaningful game, pretty much throwing it to the other team. You need to work on your game. That's another thing I want to say to the younger players, no matter what level you on. Um, a lot of times, it's preseason and you're trying to make rosters and you're trying to see if you're going to be a starter or, special teams, whatever the case may be, you're trying to make the team and things like that. Sometimes it's about the preparation, and sometimes it's about it's more than just talent. A lot of times, all these players are talented. That's why they're called up with. Um, Even the guy with the less talent has way more talent than the average person. So The biggest thing is how prepared are you to take those steps and to actually prove yourself where you have to prove yourself. Those that feel like they don't have anything to prove, well, you're wrong. You're in a competitive sport. You got to compete. It's called a competition for a reason. It's a sports competition. You're going to compete. You're going to compete. So be prepared to compete. I see a lot of trends where like uh, uh, with social media being so heavy, it's easy for a player to get so many people on their side because they didn't do their job. I.e., Baker Mayfield is one of those things where it's like, hey, you take your grievances to social media, you're going to find people that agree with you, but don't really understand that it's about the performance on the field. So Jacoby Brissett gets a chance to prove himself for a little while. We know in the interim of whatever happens with Watson. Um, how far the Browns will go. Now, the Browns, to me, they just not a good organization. They haven't been. You have to think about all of those first and second overall picks, 1 through 5 picks that they've had for years for being at the bottom, and they were never able to put talent together. They were never able to develop anything out of that. Think about the players that they have. I want to say they drafted Nick Chubbs, but everybody else, what's his name, Kareem Hunt, that shares time in the backfield, free agent. Pretty much everything else is free agent. So where's that talent? Where's that talent that you were so poor at the bottom of the league? Where's that talent? Where are those players? What have you done? They just don't do a good job of developing players. That's an organizational problem. That's bigger than coaching. That's the whole mantra of the team. That's the whole mystique of the team. That's an aura of the organization that you just don't do well enough. Like that's just my opinion. The Browns, hopefully the Browns are turning around and they'll be competitive. But but being competitive one season out of 10, out of a decade is not really being that competitive. Not being in the hunt for divisions, always being, like I said, but always in the hunt for a top draft pick and not being able to do anything with that talent. I want to see where is that talent? All those years of being at the bottom of talent. Um, is it ever going to show? Was Jarvis Landry drafted there? I think he may have been drafted there, but is he really a top receiver? Or did he just get a little light because of who was on the other side of the ball from him, or did he have to just step up because of who was supposed to be on the other side of the ball from him? Guy that left the Cowboys. I want to see what Amari Cooper does for the Browns. Um, no matter who's up under center for them, I want to see what he does because he talked a lot of noise leaving Dallas, and he felt like he and Dak just never connected. They just weren't on the same page. Some of it you got to put it on the quarterback for not understanding the speed or not understanding the talent that he had at receiver. But it was clear that Dak favored Michael Gallup and the other receivers more so than Amari. Whereas he was, sometimes, and then sometimes it's about the effort. I can't say that Amari went all out all the time. And no one can convince me otherwise. I mean, you're trying to catch the ball with one hand when it's clearly like if you use two, you might catch the ball. Um, you might have an impact on certain games. Some games you just taken out of the game because they double entry because you're supposed to be the best. But it's still about running the routes and getting open. Um, Other preseason things I want to look out for: the Tyreek Hill, Tua connection in Miami. Will we see that this preseason, or will we have to wait till the regular season to see some of that? Because Tyreek's been talking a lot of noise, like Tua's up there with Mahomes and all that. And I know you got to say that stuff to protect your quarterback, but really, really, like nowhere near Mahomes. I don't think Tua. Um, I don't think Tua. My personal opinion is I don't think Tua is a starter in the NFL. And I think we're going to find that out real quick this coming season. No more excuses for him. I just don't think that. I think that he was a great college player for the short time that we got to see him in college. But in the pros, I just don't think. I just don't think the skill level is there. I don't think. Um, I don't think the But the passion and all that stuff may be there, but I just don't think that he has enough to be an NFL quarterback long term and to lead a team anywhere. If you're looking for, I'll say it, if you're looking for mediocrity, then you found it with Tua. If that's your goal, then there it is right there. He can prove me wrong. Like nothing's guaranteed, but that's just my opinion. Is that Tua is just not that guy. We've seen him play. Uh, Remember the one year they benched Fitzpatrick, then they went back to Fitzpatrick. I mean, those that want it can learn something from Tom Brady, man. Like once you get your shot, uh, don't give it back. Once you get that chance to get in the game, don't give it back. Like Tom earned his spot. He sat, he waited, and he took his spot. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers sat and waited uh, behind Brett Favre, and then when Green Bay decided to step away from Brett Favre, he stepped right in, and he did his thing. A lot of the young guys can learn from stuff like that. Like, hey, Trey Lance is about to get the same opportunity. I want to take this moment to talk about the 49ers doing that. The 49ers doing that right there. This is diehard fan, Cornelius Cole, man. So I'm gonna talk to you about the that Jimmy G. I don't understand. I think that's gonna bite them, and then throughout the course of the season, um, railroading Jimmy G like that. I mean, G, you've been winning with Jimmy G. When he's not in the game, you lose. When he's not starting for you, you lose. Uh, Taking nothing away from Trey Lance. Maybe they see something in Trey Lance long term versus Jimmy G. I mean, but Jimmy G has gotten you to he's gotten you to a Super Bowl. He's gotten you to two NFC Championship games. I think it is. I mean, that's more than what most teams have done with their quarterbacks. That they have rated higher than Jimmy G. You know, that's more than that's more than what most quarterbacks have done. You know, sorry about that. I don't know what happened there, but sorry about that. But the Jimmy G, um, I think he's really I think he's doing. I think he's done a great job as far as being brought into an organization. They didn't want him. They wanted him in New England, and then they were overruled. Bill Belichick was high on him, and then he goes to the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan. The struggles there, but Jimmy G, he got a deal. Any quarterback that should be complaining is Jimmy G because hey man, all I've done is win and take a team so far, and then I'm still out of there. I'm still not looked at um, as a contributing factor to the team's success overall. I think that's what they're saying. The 49ers are saying by the move is that they feel like perhaps Trey Lance can get them over the hump. But what hump is there to get over? As far as you're right there. Um, you're right there. I mean, in that Super Bowl, I do think Jimmy G tried to show off his arm a little bit because he was going up against Patrick Mahomes. I think sometimes the egos of players and the arrogance of players definitely get in the way sometimes. I think fact that when you're playing a game, even though it shouldn't, um, but other than that, like, what's the real gripe with Jimmy G? Why do the 49ers have such a problem with this guy? Why have they been trying to replace him, the last couple of years or so? What was Shanahan not believing in GG when Jimmy G is taking you? A lot of coaches haven't even gotten that far with quote unquote better quarterbacks. And then you have to think about it. This also, Jimmy G has beaten Aaron Rodgers pretty much. The great Aaron Rodgers every time he faces him, and Aaron Rodgers is like is the considered the best quarterback in the league pretty much. by a lot of people. I wasn't a fan of Patrick Mahomes. I think Patrick Mahomes, I think they're going to have a decent season. I know he probably won't play preseason, but it's going to be interesting to see the receivers that they have for Kansas City playing. But back to the 49ers, get Debo some help. Offensively, get Debo some. Um, I think they're trying to do that. Maybe that's what they're saying. I don't know. Um, I don't. But it's just so much to cover. Just looking at the different teams, um, going through the preseason gearing up. Um, Jacksonville has a lot to prove. Don't know how good they're going to be. Don't know if they're going to. Don't know if they're going to be as successful. Don't know what they're going to come to the whole Urban Meyer situation and stuff like that. Like, are they going to pull together, be a team that can win, be a team that can do things? Who knows? Um, Other teams to look at preseason the team, besides those that I've already mentioned that we should be watching. Like I said, the Pittsburgh Steelers earlier, as far as a quarterback battle, Mitch Trubisky, he's probably going to win that job. Um, if not, then who do they to? Do they turn to that draft pick? Um, do they put it on? Do they put it on the rookie's shoulders like they once did, or do they lean more towards the veteran savvy? Excuse me, the veteran savvy of Mitch Trubisky. I liked Mitch Trubisky when he was in Chicago for a little while. Um, um, I think that he came out the gate and he was in that he wanted to win. He was good as a scrambler, good throwing on the run, good improvising. Those things were great. But I think his downfall was coaching. When coaches don't believe in some of these players, um, you can clearly see it. You saw that with the Carson Wentz situation in Philadelphia, and they don't put much behind you when they don't believe in you. Um, you saw the same thing with Matt Nagy with the Justin Fields last season. Like when coaches don't really feel you, there was the same thing with the, Mike Shanahan years ago with the RG3, things like that. The same thing happened with Jeff Fisher and the Vince Young. You know, um, whereas like when the coach doesn't believe in you, they're not going to design plays that cater to you. They're not going to try to help you at all. They're going to do everything in their power to prove you wrong, which to me is silly because as a head coach, just like the players on the field, your job is on the line if you don't win. I mean, they're giving you a short time now, a short window to try to turn a team around or to turn a team into a winner. So why would you be butting heads with the personnel that you have? I think that great coaches learn how to use the personnel that they have until they can get the pieces that they really want. They make everything work the way that they have it. I know New England is considered the top tier, but there's no way you can tell me that all those years that they had just the best team. And I'm not just talking on paper. They've had the core group of players that come together and play the best ball. And it comes with coaching, having a coach that wants everybody to fulfill their roles and having everybody understand their roles. That's the key to me to successful teams. Those teams that pull together. It's like if you take McVay, you saw it when he went to the Super Bowl a few years ago. That even as a young coach, he gets the most out of his players. Even as a younger coach, he gets the most out of his players. And you saw it last year. They hoisted the Lombardi Trophy. He got the most out of his players. Um, I also real quick, want to talk about the Buffalo Bills. We'll talk more about preseason next week's show, as we'll get to mostly all the teams. But the Buffalo Bills, I'm anxious to see what are they going to do now in terms of defense. I'll be watching for them preseason. I'll be watching their defensive players because they had an offense, but as you saw, their defense couldn't stop. They couldn't stop Kansas City, and what happened? They changed the rules in overtime. All the outcry. Oh, if we would have got the ball, if the Bills would have got the ball. No, your defense stopped somebody. Stop them. That was your defense fault. Stop them from getting in the end zone. You got one job. Make a field goal and you get the ball. And maybe you go down and score a touchdown. Defense. What about that? What about the emphasis that the defense didn't get the stop they needed? You just automatically say, well, it's unfair. Both teams should be able to possess the ball in overtime. No. No. And that's just my opinion. As a true fan of the game, no. No, both teams should not have to. I was a fan of the sudden death. I don't mind if two teams touch the ball, but at some point one team has to stop the other. Defense has to do something, whether whether you get a turnover or whether, like I said, hold them to a field goal, let them kick a field goal. And then you get the ball and then you go down and you score a touchdown. But are we sure that was going to happen? I mean, it's like, hey, players got to step up when they have to step up. And it's like sometimes the defense has to do their job as well. It used to be defense wins championships. But we know that defense in this day and age, especially in football, particularly football, professional football, the NFL defense is not the same. It won't ever be the same because of the rule changes and because, it makes it a little bit more entertaining for the offense to have those certain advantages at times. And to me, they are advantages. Like the one, coming up watching football, one of the biggest factors that you could see that was dominant was that was sure a fear factor was coming across that middle, knowing that you might get somebody might knock your block off. You got Ronnie Lott back there waiting to knock your block off. You got John Lynch back there waiting to knock your block off. You got Cornell Lake and all those guys back there waiting to hit you when you come across the middle. You don't go across the middle as much. Afraid of the big hits, so eliminating the big hits. That kind of takes away some of that magic on defense, and form tackling is one of those huge things that I guess as you get older you get away from, but that's what they're back to. You have to be nearly a perfect tackler nowadays, not to collide with someone's helmet, not to hit a defenseless receiver, and all those kinds of things. And plus the pass interference calls, they can go either way sometimes. There's always going to be a little bit of that kind of stuff, but big games or big moments in games swing with a pass interference call or the lack of a pass interference call. Things hurt. It hurts. It hurts the game sometimes. Like remember the Saints. The Saints lost that game to I want to say it was the Vikings because of poor. Because of poor calling, or was it? Yeah, I think it was the Saints against, poor calling, poor refereeing. No, it was the Saints against the Rams. That's what it was. It was poor. It was poor refereeing in that game that cost the Saints that game. I want to say it was was it a divisional game or was it the NFC Championship game that year? I think the Rams went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots. But I know that the Saints had complaints. It was blatant pass interference right in front of the ref, and it wasn't even called. But the calls and things like that change the game. Defense is pretty much handicapped when it comes to some of that stuff. But man, you still got to go out there and do your job. I mean, you still got to fight to try to make a stop a team one way or another. And going into the last portion of this first show, which I think for those that have hung out with me and those that have talked with me, but I want to talk about honoring. I'm gonna switch up, and we're gonna honor for a moment. Talk about the legacy that was Bill Russell. Um, Great humanitarian outside of basketball, pushing hard for civil rights slash human rights. Um, the biggest thing that sticks out to me, besides being an 11-time champion, is the player's coach. I deem myself as the people's coach, so I love the whole coaching aspect. But being a player coach, one of the first to ever do it, as far as playing at the same as simultaneously to coaching. Um, I think that that's groundbreaking in his time. Not only that, but he played in an era. You got to think guys like Bill Russell played in an era where the black man wasn't so popular. Was viewed pretty much, as a human being at times, and to suffer a lot of that humility, and to still go out there and represent and to hold his head high and to be a part of changes. I think sports help the world see each other in a different light and help people get an understanding. Um, you know, um, but hats off to Bill Russell and the legacy. His legacy, like I said, being a champ, being known as a great defender. Um, they didn't always keep stats of blocks, so you don't really know how many blocks he would have had career wise. Without someone going through and reviewing all of the footage and counting every single block. I mean, sometimes, the old school stats get a little confusing because they weren't keeping stats the way that they do now. Everything's pretty much recorded now. Everything is recorded now. But Bill Russell, he meant so much, not just to basketball players, but to people, not just in the United States, but around the world. His contributions to the causes of humanity just stand out on their own. I salute stuff like that. I love the fact that he was able to play a sport and represent, which is one of those things you get the mixed reviews on that, whether um, athletes should be using their platforms to promote other causes outside of sports. Some people disagree with that, which I don't understand why. But I encourage anybody who has a platform to keep pushing for human rights, to keep pushing for humanity. There's nothing wrong with that. And those that say it shouldn't be a part of sports and things like that, it's a part of everyday life. You see, sometimes the fans have to be checked as to what we say and what we do at venues. Same thing with the players; they have to be checked. Everybody has to be aware of everybody, and I think um, when you think of Bill Russell, you think of understanding that. You think of understanding the sensitivity of man, as well as the mindsets of those around, of those that were around him, or those in that environment at the times that he was coming up, and understanding how to navigate that, and passing that on to other younger players and being there. I've heard so many stories in the last couple of days from other players, current players to older players, saying just how much of he meant as a mentor, and how much um, watching his life has helped so many people. I'm definitely one of them. A huge fan, um, not a Celtic fan, but a huge fan of the things that he did, both on the court, off the court. Always that debate whether he belongs on basketball's Mount Rushmore. Is he in the top 10 and all that stuff? No, a legend's a legend, no matter where you rank him in your mind, your heart, and all that. But it's good to take that moment and salute a legend and to say, man, I just hope as many great things are said about me and all of you when we pass on. Uh, Guy lived a full life. Guy got to experience a lot of different things. You got to be thankful for that. Um, and as I said, keep using your platform to promote positivity. Keep uh, representing your teams. As always, the diehard fan. Um, Fantasy football is what I'm going to really end this show with my first time. It'll be my first time ever this season participating in fantasy football. So I would like some insight of what to stay away from. You veterans of that, uh, I would like to know some of the tips. Drop me tips. Drop me some tips on how to balance that. Drop me some tips on how to um, set up as far as drafting, what to look for as far as when it comes to picking certain players. Well, I know certain players are going to go quick off the boards, but I want to know how it all works. I've never participated in a fantasy football league ever. It'll be my first time. I'm hoping my first time I come out the gate and I win. I win the whole thing. But that's just my confidence level. That once I get the hang of it, then that's what I want to do. Set myself up for success, not failure. So only good tips. No bad tips, people. Um, I like to thank again Sports for America for putting me on. It's the Die Hard Fan Show. I'm the People's Coach Cornelius Cole, and as we have a few more minutes, I like to give certain shout outs. I like to shout out Trey and Bishop at First Formation for giving me the inspiration uh, to do this. And you can follow me personally. You can follow me on Facebook at Cornelius Cole or Instagram, thesimshow.com, because I do have a radio show, the Stimulate Your Mind show. I call it The Sim Show. That's DASYM show.com. You can subscribe there. I'll be dual working that as far as shows, highlights from these shows will also be posted there. Links to prior shows and things like that will be there. Also, I'm an author. I'm working on my second book now, Pains That a Man Hides 2. I released Pains That a Man Hides 1 last year. This year, it'll be the second portion of that book, or the second book, I should say. Um, have all that stuff in the works. Also, thanks for my family down in Houston for supporting my family out in Louisiana, um, and all the people out there that have followed me from the radio over to uh, this live show, bringing you um, the current, and we'll be having diehard fans throughout. As I travel, I'll hit some of these sports bars, and I'll be bringing you the diehard fans in those areas that I travel to. Also, going to games, high school, pro, whatever, seeing all the diehard fans, college. Um, on the different sporting events, we'll bring you the best of the best out of those as much as possible, and we'll also uh, keep it open for the discussions. I want to hear from the diehard fans. I want to hear from the fans in the division. There's a guy out there. His name is Mike, and he said he's a Philadelphia Eagle fan. I can't wait to have him on the show. I hope to get him on the show next week so that we can talk divisional, division rivalries. We can talk, you know, in depth about who's better, the Cowboys or the Eagles? Who's going to win that division this year? Who do we think? What are our opinions? I'm sure he'll say Philly's going to win that division, and I'll say the Cowboys are going to win that division. But do we really believe it? So Mike, if you hear me out there, um, let's do that. You said you wanted to be one of the first guests on the show. I'm asking you to be the first guest on the show. I'll send you a DM, and we'll see if we can get that started. Also, to my man Trey out there, 49er fan, I want you on the show. I want you on the show, if nothing else, to talk two things. I'm not a huge LeBron James fan, but we can talk the Lakers and we can talk those 49ers. Um, so I like to say, have a great day, and catch you next week, same time, 7 Central. It's the Die Hard Fast Show with the People's Coach, Cornelius Cole, 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.